Hey guys, DC Network here. Welcome to Ask DC Network number 3. So one quick thing before we get started, I just wanted to mention that I actually recently made a Twitter account. Basically the main purpose of the Twitter is if for whatever reason I cannot access the channel, the Twitter page would be my way to communicate with you guys. In addition to that, maybe I'll post on it every so often. Like I recently posted about the PS5 event, so I'll post some unrelated stuff and maybe even some stuff about that I just don't have enough to say to make a video on. So definitely check it out. First question's from SSEBA. What do you think is the first thing the new president of Cartoon Network has to change immediately? So I made a video on this a while back about 4 things the new president of Cartoon Network needs to do. Given the current landscape, though, with HBO Max being the priority, I think what the current president needs to do is just to give the green light to some good shows that appeal to all ages. Because what I've noticed with Cartoon Network, past 5 years, I would say, is the shows they're giving the green light to, they're shows that only, for the most part, appeal to a younger audience. They're not really greenlighting shows anymore that appeal to everybody. Like the shows I grew up with, I could watch them, my parents could watch them, anybody, and we would all enjoy it. Shows today, though, kids watch them, they enjoy it, but anybody above a certain age doesn't enjoy it. That's what I feel like they need to start doing, and that's what I think the new president should start to do. Adam Farrer Production asks, which streaming service do you think has a better chance of succeeding, Disney Plus or HBO Max? I think they're both pretty equal. I think they're both going to succeed. The reason why is because both Disney and Warner Media have such a large library of content, shows, movies, whatever, that they could literally make nothing new and just sell a streaming service of their old content and they would still make money on it. So I think they're both going to succeed. Regular Time 23 asks, which Cartoon Network show do you like that is currently airing right now? Honestly, none of them. Like, I don't think they're all bad, but just none of them grasp my interest. Like, I used to watch Craig of the Creek. I did enjoy it, but it's not a show that I'm going to sit down and watch every single episode of. I haven't watched anything since the JP Pony episode. But yeah, it's not to say that all the shows are bad on Cartoon Network, but just none of them really grab my interest. RRR asks a bunch of questions, so I'm just going to refer to them by number when answering them. Your first question, I didn't even know there was a Grim Adventures and KND crossover until you said this comment, so I have to check that out. I don't hate HBO Max. My problem with it is that, yes, it is ruining Cartoon Network. It's taking content away from other networks as well. It's just something that you shouldn't be doing with the streaming service. Like, a streaming service to me should be meant to be used as a library for all your older content, plus for stuff that you just don't have anywhere to air. So, like, for example, if Cartoon Network makes a show that says, like, new animated series that's meant for adults, but they don't want to put it on Adult Swim, then HBO Max is the home for that. If they want to revive some old shows, like bring back a fifth iteration of the original Ben 10 franchise, well, timeline rather, then HBO Max would be a place to do that. That's what I think HBO Max should be meant for. Your fourth question, yes, I think the final episode of Teen Titans was a bad way to end off the show, but I don't think it was meant to be that. There are multiple rumors that, nothing concrete though, that Teen Titans was a 6th season was being worked on at the time, and for whatever reason the show was canceled mid-production of season 6, so that was the final episode of the series. Your fifth question, yes, I used to watch Class of 3000, I do remember it. And your sixth and final question, I think Teen Titans is a show that needs to come back and have their cliffhanger ending resolved, because I remember when I watched the original Teen Titans for the first time from start to finish a few years ago, I remember after watching the last episode, I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. This is how it ends? I'm like, how could you end a show like this? Like, we need a 6th season. Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon fanboy asks, do you think HBO Max will cause Cartoon Network to shut down in other countries outside of the US? You know what? Your question is a fantastic point that I did not even think of. I think that, yeah, HBO Max probably will cause Cartoon Network to shut down in some smaller countries where it's not as popular, because then they'll be like, okay, listen, you're not watching Cartoon Network. If you want to see our shows, then just subscribe to HBO Max and you'll get the same content there. Do you have any predictions on what Cartoon Network will do for their 30th anniversary? I wonder if they're going to do anything, honestly. That's my worry or concern right now. I think they will acknowledge it in some capacity, say, oh, hey, it's our 30th anniversary, here's a little video or something. But what I want them to do is to release some DVDs or Blu-rays, maybe a box set of some of their older shows, like a fourth season of Foster's on DVD or a third season of Ed and Eddie, maybe a regular show series box set. And your third and final question, which do you prefer? Cartoon Network focusing on modern shows or them acknowledging old properties? I think there needs to be a happy medium. I think it can't be old content and it can't be old new content as well. I think it should be a happy medium, and we've seen other channels do this, like Disney plenty of times airs some older shows. Nick does the same as well on some, Nicktoons and Teen Nick and stuff like that. But I think that Cartoon Network should do a happy medium of, hey, we have some new shows airing during the day. We also have some old shows as well that you guys probably never saw before. And by you guys, I mean the current generation, because obviously we grew up with these shows, but they probably haven't seen most of them. M. Main asks, do you think Courage the Cowardly Dog was underrated? Not really. Everywhere I look or everyone I talk to, they seem to like Courage the Cowardly Dog. There's no one that I've spoken to that hates it, but I don't think it's a show that people, when they think of Cartoon Network, that's the first five things that pop into mind. I think it's one of, I don't think it's underrated, but at the same time, it's not something that immediately pops out at you when you think about, Cartoon Network as a, brand. Pinky Pool asks, do you like South Park? No, I don't like it. I used to watch it. I've seen, some episodes, but it's not really my thing. I've probably seen Olo and Tolo, maybe like 10, 15 episodes, but it's nothing that, I'm really into. The Real Minion Boy asks, what's your favorite Ben 10 game? Honestly, that's something I have to think about, because I've played every Ben 10 game to date. Obviously, for me, it's going to be from the original timeline. So I think probably one of the two Omniverse games. If I had to choose one, probably the first Ben 10 Omniverse game, because I had it on the Wii U. I actually still have it on the Wii U. I played through it on there, enjoyed it so much that I actually went out to GameStop and bought it for the 3DS and played through it on there as well. So that would probably be my favorite Ben 10 game. The Official Nature Boy asks, do you think the new Cartoon Network presidents will bring back classics to Cartoon Network, that is? I want him to. Do I think he will? Probably not. Honestly, at this point, just seeing what's happening with the current landscape and all, I feel like if we're going to want to see classics, we're going to have to go get a streaming service like HBO Max. And even HBO Max right now, honestly, it doesn't have all the classics on there. It only has a select few, so that's kind of weird to me. But I don't think Cartoon Network is going to ever be a place where, oh, hey, here's all the old classic shows you used to watch. As if you've seen my video on the future Cartoon Network, that's what I think they should do, but the reality is, will they actually? Probably not. Phantom G asks, hey DC Network, you mentioned in a recent video that you had an animation plot you were working on. Does that mean you wanted to become an animator? No, so the whole story with that is I was taking a movie making class with some friends, and we were coming up with different ideas for potential movie shorts we can make, and I came up with one, hey, what if we do an animated short? And I wrote some, plots out, a couple of different ideas and all, and I still have those ideas today. But the thing is, we never made it because none of us knew how to animate. We made some fun movies in that class, but nothing with my animation plot ideas. But to answer your question, no, I never wanted to become an animator. Fax asks, do you think Cartoon Network will ever be great again? Honestly, no. I feel like Cartoon Network is just, as a channel, it's never going to be what it once was. But as a brand, that's a different question. As a brand, Cartoon Network can become great again. All they have to do is start to greenlight some good ideas, some quality shows. And what I think Cartoon Network should do that they really haven't done to this point is pay attention to some older IPs. Just do stuff with them, because right now they have such a large library of Cartoon Network originals that they do nothing with. For example, Disney recently, they realized, hey, Phineas and Ferb, people love Phineas and Ferb. Let's cater to the audience who grew up with Phineas and Ferb and make a new movie for that. That's something I think Cartoon Network needs to do, is to start to cater to the older fans by making stuff about the shows they grew up with. Like, for example, I'd love to see a fifth iteration of the original Ben 10 timeline. I think every single Ben 10 would want to see that. I'd be fine with seeing a special episode of Ed and Eddie where, hey, this is Ed and Eddie in college, or maybe a movie on that. And also, I just thought of this as well. I'd be so down to see just a movie of Fozler's Home for Imaginary Friends, just to, just some, maybe they go on some adventure, the cast together. I don't know, just something cool like that. That's what I really think Cartoon Network needs to start doing, is to start to cater to their older audience. Like, yes, I understand Cartoon Network is targeted towards kids, it's meant for kids, but at the same time, you can't deny that there's an older audience as well and just completely forget about them. And that's what Cartoon Network's been doing. So I really think they need to start making some new specials or new content, reviving some older IPs for, you know, older audiences like myself. Let's Animate asks, would you see a Gumball movie? Yeah, I would. And I honestly think there needs to be one, because the way Gumball ended off, you can't leave it like that. You need a movie to tie it all together, put a bow on it, and then call it an end. And honestly, I think we'll probably get a movie at some point, maybe within the next year or two. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's probably one in the works, because Ben Boquelot, or however you say his name, the creator of Gumball, he said multiple times that he wants to do a movie, and that the finale, wasn't meant to be the end. He wants to do a movie to end everything off on. And the thing is that he hasn't really talked about Gumball in a year, to my knowledge, at least the Gumball movie at least. And that kind of makes me think they're working on something behind the scenes. I wouldn't be surprised if we get an announcement anytime, within the next 6 months saying, hey, there's a Gumball movie coming. Where would it come to, though? That's the question as well. I personally think it probably won't be on Cartoon Network. It's probably something that's going to end up being on HBO Max, and maybe they would air it on Cartoon Network at a later date and time. Tristan X asks, what do you think about the fact that Cartoon Network used to, or still does, force cartoon creators to not make their cartoons into episodic storytelling? That's kind of just something that happens in kids programming in general. Like, producers and animators have been on the record saying this. Producers don't like shows with an episodic storytelling because more often than not, these, Cartoon Network, Disney, and Nick, all of them, they air the show's reruns out of order. They don't air them in, hey, episode 1, 2, 3 chronological order. They usually don't do that. So that's why they don't like shows to have an episodic storytelling to them. I don't know if this, if it's forced on Cartoon Network animators, because we do have shows like Steven Universe, which it does have an overarching story. But overall, back to your question, I don't really have a problem with it. It's kind of just the way things are. And, it's just the way it is, honestly. I mean, there are shows that are meant to have an episodic storytelling, and they do exist in the, kids animation universe, but they're very limited, as we all know. Zach Oliver asks, do you remember this block called Magoozy? Yes, I do. I actually used to watch it every day when I got home from school. Maybe I'll make a video on it at some point in the future. And your second part of your question is, what do you think about Space Jam 2? I'm happy they're making it. I really like the original Space Jam. Granted, I haven't seen it in probably a decade, if not more than that. I definitely will be watching the second one, though. I'll probably make a video at whatever point it comes out at, or whenever I get to see it at least. Jamar XD asks, do you think that Sandy from SpongeBob could hold her own show? I honestly think that SpongeBob as a brand just needs to die, or at least take a step back for a while. It's just gotten to the point that I can't even watch SpongeBob anymore. Whenever I see that there's an episode on in HD, I immediately change the channel, because I'm like, okay, I just can't watch these episodes. And what I think is pretty wrong, honestly, is the fact that, Steven Hillenburg died. He passed away. And the fact of the matter is that it's well known that he wanted the show to end with the movie. That's how he wanted it to end. Nickelodeon, rather, excuse me, didn't want that to be the end of SpongeBob, because it was a cash cow for them. So they continued to make more episodes against his will. Then he passes away, and they decide, oh, we're going to make some spin-off series now, which I just think is so wrong to do. It's just really disrespectful to the guy who created the show. You wait for him to die to make more spin-off or more content on SpongeBob. The Peacock Master 76 asks, what is your reaction to the rebooted Wacky Races cartoon? So I used to watch the original show, and I do know about the reboot, but with that being said, I've never seen the reboot, I've never seen images of the reboot, so I don't really have much of any opinion on it. Deshaun Edwards asks, do you think a Craig of the Creek movie is possible? Yeah, I could see it happening. I mean, if they made a We Bare Bears movie, I could definitely see them making a Craig of the Creek movie. Do you think it should or could be possible to have it as a theatrical release? I don't think it should happen, and I don't think it will happen. The reason why I say that is because I don't think Craig of the Creek is a big enough show to have release in theaters. The only movies Cartoon Network's had release in theaters are movies for shows that are really big, like Teen Titans Go. I know it's not a Cartoon Network original, but that released in theaters because that is just a cash cow basically for Cartoon Network because kids love it. Craig of the Creek is more of a low key show that's under the radar, so I don't think it would go to theaters because I don't think many people would go to see it. Nothing against Craig of the Creek though, it's just my personal opinion on a movie. Your third question is, do you think Cartoon Network will ever try to do another theatrical release film? Yes, I think they will at some point, but like I said before, only for a show that is astronomically big. Like if Adventure Time was to get a movie, I wouldn't be surprised if it was in theaters, but you got to remember, regular show was a pretty big show for Cartoon Network, and that movie was on TV. So it's not very often we get a Cartoon Network movie in theaters. Radiance Go 2 asks, is it best for the Courage the Cowardly Dog prequel to be a series or a movie? I honestly don't know. Honestly, because I made a video on the Courage the Cowardly Dog prequel, and I don't necessarily even think it's a great idea to do. It could be a series where it's just like one and off adventures of baby Courage just like living off the land, living on his own. Or they could do a movie where it's like, oh, this is how Eustace and Muriel find Courage. This is Courage's grand adventure that, gets him into the home of Eustace and Muriel. I could see them doing either. I honestly think it'd probably be fine to do both if they wanted to. Do I think they're going to do a movie? No. I think it's most likely going to be a series. Mr. Doctor Jr. asks, hey DC Network, do you think the Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack is underrated and underappreciated? Okay, so Flapjack is a show that while it was on, I didn't really like it. Like, I watched it, I have watched some episodes before, but when I saw it was on, I was like, oh, I wish something else was on, but I still watched it and still tuned in sometimes. So I haven't gone back to watch it now to see if I like it today, but I don't know. For me personally, it's not one of my favorite shows. I don't really like it, so yeah, I don't really know if it's underrated or underappreciated because I can't really speak to that. Malang asks, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, do you think Galactic Kids Next Door will be greenlit? Um, that's a hard one, honestly, because I could see it coming to HBO Max as an HBO Max exclusive, but at the same time, as I talked about before in this XDC network, Cartoon Network doesn't really pay attention to its older IPs at all. They really don't. I mean, apart from the few reboots we've had, they don't really pay attention to their older shows. So I could see it coming to HBO Max. I wouldn't be shocked if we got an announcement. But at the same time, more likely than not, I think that we're probably never going to see Galactic Kids Next Door. But I won't completely rule it out. Our final question for today comes from Rip Polo. Will you be picking up the new Ben 10 game? No, I won't be. I played the first Ben 10 reboot game just because, oh, it's the new Ben 10 game. Let me check it out. And it was awful, honestly. It was really bad. I played through the whole thing. Immediately sold it after I played through it. I did not like it at all. To answer the second part of your question, also, do you like what the reboot does with the enhancement with the Omnitrix, and would you like to see that in the original classic continuity? No, I don't like it at all, and here's why. Because each season they do something new with the Omnitrix just so they can make new toys to sell to kids. Like, that is the sole reason why they are doing this stuff. Like, Omni enhancements, when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, that's not bad, because that's basically like Ultimate Aliens, but a little bit different. And then when I saw this new Omnikicks thing, or whatever it's called, I'm just like, okay, yeah, they're just doing this so they can make toys based on these special forms of the aliens and then make money because kids will buy it. That is the only reason it's there. I would not like to see that in the classic continuity. I think, I mean, we kind of got that because we got Ultimate Aliens. Ultimate Aliens basically are, different Omnitrix enhancements, but we only got it once. I think that is fine. I don't want to see any other type of enhancements in the Omnitrix in the original timeline. I think Ultimate Aliens is enough. It is perfectly fine. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that. Anyways, as you can tell by the length of this video, there were so many great questions this time around. I'm really sorry if I couldn't get to yours, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.